Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, piracetam, modafinil, Nupep, uridine monophosphate. I mean, phenylpiracetam, forget it. You can always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
Episode number 45 of the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast. I am your host, Ryan Michael Ballo, and I want to talk about probably one of the most down to home, front and center in my brain kind of applications of nootropics, and that's the business environment. Particularly, I just want to give you 3 nootropic compounds and associated stacks that I've come to determine in me and some of the people that we consult with on the Cortex Labs Nootropics Consulting Service that are probably the best applicable nootropic and nootropic stacks to take in the business environment. You know, one of the things I want to quick mention is we're launching a digital guide. We've got 3 of them now: the Nupep Pro Stack List, a giant list of Nupep stacks; the Racetam God Guide, a giant list of Racetam stacks; and then Smarter, Better, Faster, which is a bunch of different stacks. It's just a curveball. It's got all kinds of nootropics protocols in it. These are digital. Buy them at livecortex.com. They're cheap and downloadable. But we're launching another one called Nootropic Stacks for the Business Professional, in which we are going to break down the most powerful business nootropic stacks, the ones that facilitate productivity and cerebral functionality and the capacity to sit down and get work done. And we talk about business promotions and building companies and all this great stuff. That's coming out soon. But in that guide, there are 3 primary components, primary nootropic stacks that I want to talk about, give you some associated stacks that truly turn on brain performance for business, because there are some, right? I mean, there are nootropics that are better for creativity, right? You might do something like 700 milligrams aniracetam and 500 milligrams ashwagandha. That's a good creativity stack right there. There are nootropics for purely speed of processing and energy, and that would be like something like 500 milligrams L-tyrosine and a B complex. And then there are nootropic stacks for the business environment, for sitting down, cranking out work, right? Going or even taking sort of semi-regularly with proper cycling over the course of many months, 6 months to a year with proper cycling. I want to make sure I say that, so that you can facilitate a promotion. And we're going to talk about them. But first, I just want to mention to you guys that Cortex, our nootropic stack, which is, this is really we're not going to include Cortex in the discussion today because I want to talk about 3 other compounds, but Cortex is the business productivity stack. I mean, this thing is powerful. Get it at livecortex.com. It combines uridine monophosphate, CDP choline, artichoke extract, and Bacopa monnieri for a powerful focus and motivation nootropic experience. Cortex, get it at livecortex.com. Buy a bottle, buy 2. The thing is, right now, if you're listening to this podcast before December 1st, Cortex is $29.99. That is uber cheap, and it is not going to be that cheap moving forward. It's normally $35, okay? Get it at livecortex.com, and that's it for the product pro. Or wait, I got to mention our nootropic service. I mentioned it before, but briefly, it's a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondence. The folks that use the service are business folks, they're entrepreneurs, they're mothers that have 5 kids and need brain performance after 6 p.m. They are Wall Street day traders, everybody else in between, people that have got brain fog for 20 years and can't fix it. Get that consulting service at livecortex.com. Okay, shifting gears back to these nootropic compounds. Let me just break down the 3 compounds, and then I'm going to break down a few associated stacks. Number 1, uridine monophosphate, okay? Uridine monophosphate. I talk about this a lot. It is the primary component in Cortex. That's why it's so powerful. And it is mental energy. It is speed of processing. It is motivation. It is turning on the capacity to work. It does a few things. That's why it works on improving the sort of profile of acetylcholine in your brain. But I think that's sort of secondary to what it truly does, which is work on sensitizing dopamine receptors. It also improves neurite outgrowth. These are axons and dendrites, which are branches that spawn from neuron to other neuron, which makes your brain send signals a lot quicker. This is the ultimate nootropic. It's funny because I was like, when we created the Cortex stack, which has uridine in it, I was like, why aren't people talking about this? Why isn't this super popular? And it's only now, after we created that stack, after I brought it to the mainstream a lot, that Dave Asprey was on the Bulletproof conference recently talking about uridine and a choline source in DHA upregulating neurogenesis. So uridine is such a powerful compound. But the thing I found early in my days as an entrepreneur is that the thing really, really helps your brain work in business situations. I'm talking about sales calls, verbal fluency, sitting down, doing productive work, right? 4 hours in front of a laptop screen, cranking stuff out. And you could apply it to working memory stuff, programming, accounting, QuickBooks, working with numbers, working in, what's that program? Oh, Excel. And this sort of stuff. That's what uridine does. It is one of the most powerful nootropics there is, and it is definitely a solid nootropic compound to use in the business environment. Dose range on uridine is 25 to 500 milligrams. Some folks are going to respond well to 25 to 150 milligram doses. Others between 50 and 500. Find your sweet spot. And let's talk about a couple stacks with uridine. Number one would be 150 milligrams of uridine monophosphate. So if you want to write this down, I'll go through it slowly so folks can hear it. 200 milligrams of CDP choline. 200 milligrams CDP choline. A B complex. B complex is a solid strategy to use with uridine. B9 and B12 help uridine to upregulate neurogenesis. And then 5 milligrams of vinpocetine. Vinpocetine is a blood flow and oxygen facilitator in the brain. Very cool stack. That is a business stack that you can use for business-like work. Now, the doses you can modify. You can change those doses. You can modify them, but I would do them in very small increments because we've refined that particular stack down. That is sort of the higher dose end of a stack that we could. For some people, they're going to respond to lower doses of that stack, somewhere around 150 on uridine, 80 on CDP, 5 milligrams in vinpocetine, and a B complex. But most other folks that are going to truly require just a hardcore, consistent brain function and respond great to that stack. Okay, so that's uridine. That's compound number one. And that's a great stack with it. The second compound that I think of all the nootropic compounds, that is literally the best for the business environment, for business productivity, for sitting down and getting work done, for cranking out performance, for having mental energy, is modafinil. Okay, it's modafinil. Modafinil is the orexin peptide enhancing, dopaminergic, anti-narcolepsy drug, which is just powerful. It is, they made a movie called Limitless, which is essentially based on modafinil. I mean, modafinil is the closest thing you can get to having that exceptional brain performance that the guy Bradley Cooper was playing in this movie Limitless was having. Like powerful mental energy, powerful speed of processing, powerful focus capacity, powerful cognitive endurance, basically everything. It's like if you didn't know what it felt like to fire on all cylinders, modafinil lets you know what that feels like, and it's very acutely noticeable. It's something you won't forget. I talk to so many people in the business environment, in the business sector, whether we're consulting them or just running into people in business because I'm a business guy, that take modafinil. It's more than people think. The stuff is very pervasive. Dose range is 25 to 250 milligrams. Most folks find a sweet spot at 75, and that's where we're at. But combining modafinil with a couple things, I'm going to give you two stacks that are exceptionally effective to apply to business stuff that have modafinil in them. Okay, here they are. Number one, 75 milligrams modafinil, 500 milligrams oxiracetam, 300 milligrams alpha-GPC. Okay, this combines modafinil with a freaking racetam, right? So you got functional working memory and focus, and you've got the brain energy and like the fire on all cylinders effect of modafinil, and then we got a choline source in there, to keep up with the extra usage of neurotransmitters, particularly acetylcholine, that the racetam and perhaps modafinil at some capacity is going to put into use. This stack, I mean, you got to write this stuff down. You got to try a stack like that. Work the doses if that dose range doesn't work great for you, but I think it will for a lot of people because we see this in some of our consulting clients, okay? That's powerful modafinil stack number one for business. Number two is 100 milligrams modafinil, 500 milligrams sublingual aniracetam, and 500 milligrams choline bitartrate. I mean, it hits you differently. Aniracetam is a speed of processing, like drive you to action racetam. It is powerful, functional working memory. And then you've got the modafinil in the background at a nice solid 100 milligram dose and some choline bitartrate to supply the acetylcholine for that racetam to burn up in your hippocampus. Pretty cool stuff. Very, very powerful stack. But that's number two, modafinil. I mean, if you want to stack, if you want a compound individually that's really, truly targeted for business productivity, it is modafinil. Number three on some of the most, the top powerful business productivity nootropics is a compound called theacrine. I've been a fanatic of theacrine since I tried it years ago, brought it into very many stacks, experimented with it and Noopept, which we're going to talk about, and put those stacks in the Noopept Pro stack list. That's another one of our digital guides you can get at livecortex.com. Dude, those stacks are powerful. I don't even know how many we have in there, but it's endless. There's like very many powerful Noopept stacks. One of them is Noopept Theacrine. Theacrine is this sort of caffeine sister that has like a longer half-life, requires less of a dose, and is profoundly more stimulatory. You take it in 25 to 200 milligram doses, and the stuff turns brain energy on. Now, like, I wouldn't say it's like modafinil, or in that category, but I would confidently say it's kind of close. Okay, theacrine is no joke, and so when business folks ask me, and we do some consulting with folks, or if I see folks in passing, or I'm talking to people about nootropics in the business context, hey man, I've been trying racetams and stuff. You got any other suggestions? I'm like, yeah, theacrine. You gotta take some theacrine, okay? So folks do, and they get good results, and it's powerful because it really stimulates wakefulness. It's one of the sort of, it's just like caffeine in that it goes in and binds to adenosine receptors, turning on the brain, making it think it isn't tired. It sort of turns tiredness off, kind of like modafinil, and absolutely like caffeine. But the interesting thing that I found over time, trying to experiment with it to get stacked for the Noopept Pro stack list, and really just trying to crank up business productivity, because I'm an entrepreneur, is that it stacks profoundly well with Noopept. I mean, it stacks with racetams, but in the context of nootropic combinations for business productivity, here is the final stack with theacrine, okay? It's 100 milligrams of theacrine, and then we're going a medium dose of Noopept. It's 10 milligrams of Noopept. Now, some people are going to require a choline source with the Noopept, so, I mean, really there's no specification on that. Choose what you want. 300 milligrams choline by tartrate, 75 to 150 to 300 milligrams of alpha GPC or CDP choline separately, okay? But that's the predominant stack. 100 milligrams, that's a lot of theacrine. Normally people take 50 and like, wow, this stuff is strong. And then 10 milligrams Noopept. It's working memory, right? It's enhanced cholinergic signaling, so you got working memory, focus, verbal fluency, but it's energy, right? It's brain capacity. It's cognitive endurance. Those are three powerful business stacks. Use those stacks, write them down, come back to this podcast. You'll have it forever. If you're subscribed to the iTunes podcast on iTunes, Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast, you'll always have access to this stuff. Come do it. If you're not subscribed to this freaking podcast, we are pumping out content city, and guess what? It's never going to end. We've got so much more to talk about. There are endless amounts of nootropic. There are endless amounts of combinations we can talk about, and I'm crazy about this stuff because it has changed my life and changed my business productivity, which is the topic of this podcast. All right, last minute product pro, the Cortex stack. Get it at livecortex.com. That's our powerful stack. Pre-made frontal lobe stack. This stuff gets you going. This stuff will turn on brain performance. This stuff will turn on motivation. I mean, basically at the time I was like, all right, the pre-made stacks out there, they're pretty cool. They're okay. Not that great. I wanted to change that. We did it with Cortex. Get that sucker at livecortex.com. 3 digital guides, the Noopept Pro stack list. You thought those stacks were good. We break down very many powerful stacks in the Noopept Pro digital stack list. Get that sucker at livecortex.com. It's downloadable for any device you have. The Racetam Guide, same thing, but all Racetam stacks. 80 plus strong Racetam nootropic stacks. Okay, emphasis on the word strong. And then we got Smarter, Better, Faster. Smarter, Better, Faster is a all-around digital guide. The tagline is a surgical guide to using nootropics for total mental dominance. Think about it. It is powerful. It has my personal favorite stacks. Teaches you how to use modafinil surgically. It is awesome. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com, and then the consulting service. If you need nootropics consulting, go to livecortex.com, order the nootropics consulting at $65. Gets you a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences, and that is all. Hey, livecortex.com/blog, the biggest blog on the planet on nootropics. The Cortex Labs Nootropics channel on YouTube, and livecortex.com for powerful nootropic products and nootropic-related stuff. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the iTunes podcast here, please do so. Please leave us a review. If you hated it, say you hated it. If you loved it, say you loved it. And thanks so much for being with me. I am your nootropics wizard, Ryan Michael Ballo.